Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 21 of The Hum, a Kansas Hoops podcast via the Field of 68. I'm your host, Sam Lance, and I'm once again joined by co-host Jackson Bezdek. And Jackson, the Jayhawks, baby, played probably their biggest game of the season on Saturday. Top 10 matchup inside Allen Fieldhouse. So much on the line in terms of the Big 12 race, and what a game it was. Kansas getting the win, so let's get right into it, y'all. Kansas-Houston recap episode right here on The Hum, a Kansas Hoops podcast. Well, Jackson, games really don't get much bigger in the regular season than this game that we just had yesterday. There's just so much on the line in this one between Kansas and Houston in terms of the Big 12 race. A loss for Kansas would have meant really, really bad things, and it would have been a crazy hole to try to climb out of to try to catch Houston again. But Kansas ends up dominating this one 78-65. And now Kansas and Houston, after a wild, wild day in the Big 12, are tied alone at the top of the conference. But let's be honest, Jackson. I think this game, not just in terms of the Big 12, but in terms of just Kansas' season as a whole, Kansas' team confidence was just an absolutely huge game. Like a loss, like I just said it to you before we started recording, like a loss here, and I don't even know what we're about to talk about on the podcast, let alone, what are these players thinking?
I would have been in shambles. It would
have
be a
been
little crybaby, right?
Sky is falling type of loss, I think.
Yes, it would have been, because not only does Kansas lose all their momentum, but Houston gets a win in Allen Fieldhouse. Yeah, you can wrap up the Big 12 after that. But that was not the case, Sam. Kansas was that I told you before we got on, that was as much fun as I had at a Kansas basketball game in terms of like joy. Like that was just an awesome place to be. The first Mizzou game back, when I put up 100, beat them by 40, place is going nuts. Like yesterday, it was obviously a way more important game, but it was so fun. The vibes were just elite the whole time. Kansas pretty much led by double digits the whole game, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And dude, like let's talk about the fog. Like let's talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, Kansas fans, Jackson, they're the best because they're just so smart. Like every single person in that building knew yesterday what was at stake. Like every single person in that building knew that if Kansas lost this game, not only is it going to be a tough road to win the Big 12, you could pretty much forget about the Big 12 actually winning it if Kansas would have lost this game. The Jayhawks would not be able to do it. So the fans knew that. And the fans also knew we're welcoming them in Houston for the first time. Welcome to the Big 12. I was trying to get people at the end of the game to chant AAC, but I couldn't get it done, Jackson.
Would have been better than overrated during the Rock Chalk chant.
That was ridiculous. We'll talk about that. That's the only negative from Allen Fieldhouse.
Literally.
Man, that atmosphere was crazy. Like, I remember at the first media timeout, like looking around and like we go into that TV timeout and everybody's like murmuring, like water, like trying to just catch their breath. Like, it's like everybody.
We needed the TV timeout too.
Yeah, like everybody needed that first media timeout with how juiced it was in the building, and like that energy, Jackson. Like I raved about how awesome UConn was. That game was probably 2 to 3 times more than UConn, which was
I think I'd have to agree. Yeah. It was, I mean, like, first of all, whoever decided that Pursuit of Happiness from the Project X, Kid Cudi, that's the tip song now. I think we stick with that because that was lit. Keep the hum at the under 4. Like, that's fine. Tip off hum is elite, but like, man, that was the lights. I was off on the lights before the season. Now I'm into the lights now. I'm into it. I'm a big old school guy. I'm like, oh, this isn't how we did it back in the 70s. But hey man, I'm pro lights now. That was lit.
Yeah, no, the Pursuit of Happiness was awesome. I remember like the beginning of that before the actual drop. Like I remember like, what are they about to play?
What are they cooking here?
It was just like such a weird like build up to it that it was like, what in the world is going on? Like, is it about to be the hum? Like I had no idea, and then boom, like that was That was pretty awesome. But also the crowd was juiced because guess what? Houston was favored in this game.
Unbelievable.
Only the second time that Houston has been that Kansas has been an underdog inside of Allen Fieldhouse. And this is what Kelvin Sampson said after the game, which I thought was hilarious. If you haven't seen his post-game press conference, I would go back and watch all of it because Kelvin Sampson is one of my
Good
favorite
stuff.
people post-game.
Mm.
This is a Sampson quote. Someone made the mistake and told me we were actually favored in this game. That's sacrilegious. How is Kansas not favored in any game, especially here? I mean, like, honestly,
Great
I
point.
agree with that, Kelvin. How is Kansas not favored in Allen Fieldhouse against anybody in college basketball this year? Like, if
The,
UConn, I think UConn's the best team in the country. If UConn came to Allen Fieldhouse right now, should UConn be favored in Allen Fieldhouse?
no,
The answer is no. Why was Houston favored? That was on Vegas. Like, that
because
was on Vegas, first of all.
Ken Palm has Houston shoved. I mean, you know where I'm going with this. Like it, the Ken Palm and Houston love affair is absolutely ridiculous. But the two games that Kansas has been dogs at home, they're 2-0. So I would just like to sit here and thank Vegas for paying for my next 4 weeks at the bars because I was free cheddar. I mean, what are we doing here? That's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
My one of my friends said he hammered alternate spread -8.5 at like +500. So that was pretty sick. But yeah,
Shout out your boy.
back to what Sampson was saying. He basically said like Kansas is really good. They don't need this crowd to be good, but this thing was set up for this type of environment today. You challenge Jayhawk pride, if you will, by telling them they're not favored. Their fans were special today. They raised them to another level. I mean, Kelvin Sampson, you're right. You did. Everybody in Jayhawk Nation's pride was challenged yesterday. We came into that game pissed off.
I was offended.
Oh,
I was personally offended that it was not Kansas -1, -2. I was personally offended that Houston sits at number one in the metrics every single year for no freaking reason.
still number one in Kim Pom, by the way. I don't know about the Nets. I don't know what they are in the net, but
I don't. I don't. I mean, I get it. Like I do get it, but at some point you have to. It's not all about math. It's not all about science. Like we were talking to Rob, and he was saying, he's like, well, it's crazy that Houston is favored, but it's not like ridiculous because look at the metrics. At some point, these metrics have to take into account momentum, and they have to take into account Jayhawk pride, like they do. I mean, I think when Samson looks at that line, it's over before the game started. He knew it. He knew they had no chance. He got so frustrated, I think 6 or 7 minutes into the game after another missed bunny by Houston. He broke his whiteboard almost. And that was early in the first half. Like he knew the first 10 minutes, Houston had to be up at least 6. And it was such the opposite. And after that, it was cooked.
yeah, it was really the Allen Fieldhouse crowd that helped Kansas get out to that start. Bill Self, he said that he thought this was the best home crowd we've had all year. He said, I mean, Connecticut was good, but it wasn't as good as this today, which I agree. It was pretty crazy. And even Bill Self said, he thought this game added some intensity just because the fan base, everybody knows, if this goes wrong and we don't play well, then this is not going to be good in terms of the season. So yeah. Fog Allen, baby. There's nothing better. Like Jeff Goodman said this on After Dark yesterday. There are places, that people try to say rival Kansas. I'm sorry, y'all. There's no better atmosphere in college basketball right now, or probably has ever been than Fog Allen. Like that place right now is just on another level. It's on a whole nother level than Duke. It's on a whole nother level than Indiana. Any place that you can name, I don't care. Allen Fieldhouse right now is probably 2 to 3 times that. And it's true. It's true.
You're 100% right. And it's a lot of it is, we still have Coach Self. The culture that he's built since 2003 still stands tall today. And that's such a unique, I mean, you only get that at places like a Duke, like a UNC, but their guys are gone now. And Coach Self is still here. And I have never been. I would love to go to a Duke or a UNC game. I've been to opposing college basketball arenas. Nothing to call legendary, but it feels like a different sport when you go to a college basketball game that's not an Allen Fieldhouse. It there's just the pregame video. I cry every time. I'm dead serious. I sit in the student section and I cry like a 5-year-old at that pregame video. It gets me so freaking emotional. Just seeing the history, like the fact that you walk in and the rules are right there. It just hits you in the face. Like, wow, those are the first ever rules of basketball. Then you get to the video. You've got 10 clips from 1908 in there with guys wearing knee pads shooting into a peach basket. And then you flash forward and Jalen Wilson's hitting an and one and Ochai hits a dunk and it just all accumulates. And it's like I have a shirt that I've had since I was like 9. It's picture Allen Fieldhouse. It says, "It's okay. Everybody loses here." It's true. Like Houston, don't feel bad, guys. You're just the next in line. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Allen Fieldhouse, absolute insanity last night, but it's time to actually talk about this ball game a little bit here, Jackson. Kansas again, underdog pregame, still makes no sense. And we mentioned how electric that crowd was at the beginning of the game. And the Jayhawks behind that crowd got off to a 23-11 lead. Hunter Dickinson had like 6 points early. Murphy had like 4 or 5. KJ had a couple. DeJuan had a 3. Like it was just the ideal start for Kansas. And from there, like the Jayhawks just kept their foot on the pedal this entire game. I think it was 43-28 at halftime. And I remember being in the student section and I turned to my buddy. I was like, okay, like we've done this. We cannot come out of this second half and let them trim it to 10. Like, I don't know what it is about that number in college basketball, but if you let a team, not even 10, like trim to 8 to 10, all of a sudden that team has life. I was like, if we allow Houston like the first 4 to 8 minutes of this half to trim it to 10 or something like that, then we're in for a battle. But Kansas just literally every time Houston made their little 3-4 point run, Murphy would step up, hit a fucking big shot. Like it was just like it was crazy, man.
The offense was just on another level. We talked about it the previous episodes. Like our offense has been playing well, kind of sneakily.
Yep.
This is a huge test for it. And I think, did we make the first 4 threes we shot? I think it was something like, I mean, we were bang, 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 and they were open looks, running good offense, and still watching that game, you can clearly see how good Houston is defensively. They were still all over the place. Their hands were in passing lanes. They were getting deflections. Shoot, Kansas still turned it over a good amount of times. I mean, watching that game, it was almost like, how do we have 40 points in the first half? I mean, Houston, I didn't even think played that bad defensively, but
Yeah.
great offense always beats great defense. And when Bill Self is buried in his bag for a week going against Kelvin Sampson, like that was A+ Coach Self stuff. And yeah, I was saying it with my buddies too. Like if this got to single digits, we were going to be worried. But I don't know what the 10-point threshold is so bizarre because I think it's all mental. Like once you see a game in single digits, then the other team is like, okay, it's 2 possessions, right? You 3, foul, back. Now we're in this. But if it's 12, it's like, oh man, we got to get 4 stops and hit 4 threes. And it's just this whole thing. Kansas never let it get down. They never let it get down.
It reached single digits with around, or sorry, it reached 10 with around 5 minutes to go in this game. Parker Braun, though, then made a 3, hit 2 free throws, and Hunter Dickinson dropped in a layup. And next thing you know, Kansas was back up by 14, and that was ball game for Houston. So, yeah, Jayhawks just never let Houston get back in this one. Massive, massive, massive win. And you mentioned the offense there. Dude, to score 78 points versus this Houston team is actually elite. Like, that is actually elite. I got to pull out my phone for this one, Jackson. This Houston defense, if you just think about really good defenses over the past, since Bill Self has been here, right? These are some of the best defenses, literally the best defensive efficiencies on KenPom since Bill Self took over. You have 22 Tech at 85.0, Sweet 16 loss for that team. By the way, Houston is at 86.1 this year after that Kansas game. They came into the game at, I think, 84.5. But now they're at 86.1. 20 KU is now better defensively than that team. 1920 KU, the
Damn
consensus
straight they are.
team. That team now has better defensive efficiency. If you look at the other teams on this list, you have 08 Kansas, national championship. 09 Louisville, lost in the Elite Eight. 09 Memphis, lost in the Sweet 16. Then you have 13 Louisville, won a natty. 15 Kentucky, won the Final Four. 18 Virginia is the only outlier here. They lost to UMBC.
Oh, yeah,
They had
yeah.
an 85.6 defensive efficiency. Then you have 19 Tech, who's the best team on this list, 84.1 the year that they made it to the Natty and were the runner-up. Then you have us during the COVID year, and then I mentioned 22 Tech. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 Final Four teams in there, and a KU team who probably was heading to the Final Four in 1920. And then Houston is just one tiny step behind all those teams. Like, Kansas just dominated a team who, via the KenPom numbers, is pretty much primed for very, very deep postseason run. And Kansas messed them up yesterday offensively.
That 15 Kentucky team, guys, that was the undefeated team. That was the team that was 39-0, lost to Wisconsin. That is probably, even though they didn't win the Natty, probably the greatest college basketball team of all time. Like, let's be real. Like, that was a ridiculous season from those guys. Karl Anthony Towns, I think, was Booker on that team? No, he was the year after. But that team was loaded. That's the type of level that Houston is at. Like, according to these metrics, they are just as good defensively as possibly the greatest team in the past century. And Kansas put up 80 on them kind of effortlessly yesterday. Obviously, it wasn't effortlessly, but it looked that way because the offense.
They put 78 points on the board, Jackson, and Kansas had 18 turnovers still. 18 turnovers. Their season high still.
We love turning over 18
points.
times.
And if you go back and look at some of these teams that I just mentioned, like 22 Tech, 19 Tech, like, guess what? Those teams were not giving up 78 points
ever.
Nobody.
Not even when they played us. Not even then. Like, it was still.
I think the 19 Tech team gave up like 70 points, I think it was 74 points to us in the Big 12 tournament. That was the highest amount of points that team gave up. I doubt the 15-16 Kentucky team really let anybody score over 80 points. Like,
that would shock me.
What Kansas did yesterday, guys, was elite. Like, Kansas shot 69% from the field and scored 78 against one of the best defenses in the past 20 years. Like, it's crazy.
It was probably, I think in terms of pure shooting percentage, has to be maybe the best game Bill Self's ever coached at Kansas.
It was the highest shooting percentage in a conference game for Kansas since 1991. So it would be the best under Bill Self.
That's wild. I did see something funny. The Barstool Houston Twitter page was like, of course, Kansas decides to hit all their shots against us. And I'm like, we've been doing that for 2 weeks, dude. They're not going to get any sympathy here. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah. Here's the thing now, Jackson. Like, you can't double Kansas anymore. Like, with Johnny Furphy out there now, you just can't do it. Like, every time yesterday, and Kelvin Sampson said that they tried a few things yesterday, and it just didn't work. Like, they tried, to trap posts. They tried to do different things, and it just didn't work. And Kelvin said that Houston, at the beginning of the game, was having Kansas take the shots they wanted them to take, that they scouted them, like, wanted them to take, and they were just making them. And
there was an answer for everything. Bill Self had an answer for everything Kelvin Sampson had. For every act, Kansas had a counteract to it almost immediately. Dickinson was super locked in, and not even just in scoring. The second half, he kind of took over and was just bullying people, but he wasn't really used a whole lot in that first half. But his presence down low opens up the offense, right? It has been that way all year. But now that Johnny Furphy has emerged, it's probably a lottery pick. Like,
Oh,
That's
please
pretty
no.
depressing. I know. It's so sad. But
Stop it, guys.
he's been so good. And I think over his last five, he's shooting like 55% from three. And a couple of them yesterday were contested. He almost hit an and one. That the one he got fouled on almost went in. Like he's playing on another level right now. And thank God, because El Marco was looking in deer in the headlights when he was checking in. And that might go down as one of Bill Self's all-time like midseason moves. I am so serious. Like if Kansas gets to the Final Four this year, that like we need to hang a banner for Bill Self starts Johnny Furphy instead of a
Oh,
Final Four
did
banner.
you hear the Furphy chants like break out
Yes,
yesterday?
crazy.
So okay, first of all,
There's an Australian flag in the student section now.
that dunk Jackson by Furphy, he threw it down, dude.
Yeah,
Like
he did.
that was
He
that
does
was a
that.
crazy play.
He gets
The
up.
student section chants Furphy, but yeah, the Johnny Furphy, it's just the fact that now Kansas has, if you double Hunter Dickinson, right, and he kicks it out, you have a cutter in KJ who can get to the basket, and you have three guys now who can spot up. Kansas used to have two spot up options in Kevin McCullough and DeJuan Harris, and let's be honest, those are two people that teams like are probably okay with getting
Yep.
late rotation on.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Johnny Furphy can't do that anymore. So whenever Hunter Dickinson kicks it out and you have a late rotation and that ball gets swung around, somebody's going to be open. And you can't leave any of those guys open anymore. And in those one more like situations,
Yep.
Kansas has knocked down like all their shots yesterday. So really at
It's,
this point, it's just like, how do you guard us if when we're playing like this, especially you got guys like Furphy and McCullough cutting as well, and KJ cutting, flashing to the basket and getting easy looks. Like I just don't know how you guard us right now. I really
this team is really hard to guard because it's been the best passing team in the country all season. Like that's been the standard.
It's been the
And
best
now
shooting team in the country all season too by field goal percentage. Just
and
saying.
that's
We've
thanks to
been talking about the
Dickinson and
shooting
KJ.
all year.
It's not shooting, it's Dickinson jump hooks and KJ dunks. That's why the field goal percentage is so high. They're two 1 and 2 in the Big 12 right now in that rank. But it's I could just go on about Furphy for like 20, 25 minutes. Like it's crazy. The Dickinson thing, the size was evident. Like we talked about it. You could tell, like watching the game, being at the game, like Hunter was way bigger than their guys. And that that even opens up so much for Furphy just because if they're putting both of their 6'6", 6'7" guys trying to double Hunter, dude, you've got some like LJ Cryer's matched up on Furphy sometimes. Like Furphy's got 5 inches on that guy. And it was I'm gonna miss him. I'm really gonna miss him because he's leaving. I'm saying we have to prepare ourselves for the fact that we're gonna see Johnny Furphy in a draft day suit in June. It's happening.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up an NBA draft
I
mock.
saw him at 16 yesterday, Sam.
Here we go. Yard
16.
Barker has a 2024 first round here. Let's see. I mean, Furphy at this point he's probably gone, and I hate it, but at the same time, like if you think about going into next year, we expected probably El Marco to be gone at the beginning of the
Yeah,
season.
totally.
Now El
I
Marco
totally
is
did.
going to not be gone.
Dude,
So
there was a crazy, way too early mock draft this summer that had Marco getting picked fifth overall.
yeah,
Like,
I
what an
remember. I
alternate
remember.
universe that is. The
So
thing with
this mock
okay,
has Kevin McCullough at 18 to the Hawks,
yeah,
and I've
that's
seen
where he's
Kevin
going.
McCullough actually like as high as 7, which is
That's ridiculous.
yeah.
I love you, Kev, but that's kind of crazy.
I am not seeing there was no Johnny Furphy in this mock, which
The
thank
thing with Murphy
but
is you only have to teach him how to lift weights in the air because his defense, like you can tell things are starting to click for him. Like Houston was going at him. They were trying to attack him especially in the second half. They were going at him possession after possession. And he was in the right spot just a couple times. He's not strong enough yet, right? Especially not for the NBA. But if you see he's 6'9" guard, 50% from the 3-point line, jumps out of the gym and knows how to play because he's from overseas and hasn't grown up in AAU and playing 60 games a summer since he was 9, right? So that's such an attractive product for an NBA organization, especially when, like, hey, the only thing we really need to tell you to do is put on 30 pounds. You little string bean. Like,
Yeah, no, for real. Yeah, I mean, I think Furphy with the addition of him, like Kansas now has the best starting group in the country. Like it's pretty like if I think I'm thinking UConn, right? Like they probably have equivalent to as good of a starting
yeah,
five as Kansas. Honestly, I still think Arizona, I still think they're starting five.
they have a lot of guys. They do, you know.
Uh, but besides that, like it's probably those three teams. Maybe North Carolina, uh, they're starting five. But
They played really well yesterday. Yeah.
Kansas, I think, is right up there right now, and it's because of Furphy. Evan Maya,
Mm-hmm.
I love me some Evan Maya, uh, statistician. He had El Marco whenever El Marco was in the starting lineup. We talked
Yep.
about this on the pod before, but he had El Marco as the 64th ranked fifth, like most valuable fifth option, right?
Right.
And that's not very good. Furphy is now 24th in that rankings, right? As a fifth option. And Kansas's fifth option, quote unquote, he's actually the fourth option because DeJuan.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
our fifth option now and Johnny Furphy might average 15 a game the rest of the season. Like you said that last podcast, and I was like, nah, like no way. Like 8 to 12, 8 to 10. Like you might be right. He might be a 12 to 15 point scorer the rest of the season. And with that, Kansas has the best starting five in the country, like undoubtedly.
Yep. Which is good because they have the worst bench in the country too. Like straight up. But let's stay positive talking about the starters. Like in that 24th ranking is only going to go up from here, right? I mean, he's only had what 4 or 5 games as a sample size. Like imagine, we get into early March, right around Big 12 tournament time. He's probably in the top 15 of that ranking in terms of value from the fifth starting spot. It's I I haven't seen Bill Self do something like this. I feel like in so long that it almost feels like a new experience for me. I've watched this team for 21 years. You get the same kind of scripts some years. You've like a LeGerald Vick issue or a Remy Martin issue, or the Morris twins beat up the football team. There's always something going on. But this is just purely Bill Self locked himself in his office, said this team doesn't have what it takes. I need to figure out a way to make this ship turn the other way. And he landed with Johnny Furphy in the starting lineup. And that has been nothing but a massive, massive, massive success so far. Everybody in the basketball media world is talking about Johnny Furphy. Everybody is. And he didn't start on our team a month ago. And now he is like taking over the X universe about college basketball. Just Australian, looks like a 12-year-old white shooter from Kansas.
His
Like
name is awesome, Jackson. We need to talk about. We were supposed to talk about potential Johnny Furphy nicknames,
yeah,
and we didn't do it. Like maybe we should come
yeah.
up with a couple real quick. I really don't know though. Like
Dude, I saw someone call him Johnny Basketball a couple months ago, and that's what I've been sticking with. Johnny Basketball, baby. But like, I know you want to do it with
something
Furphy.
with Furf. Yeah.
Yeah, I know you went with Furf.
So, what maybe we'll throw that out there again. And next episode, after Johnny Furphy drops a ridiculous 30-point game against Kansas State on the road on Monday, then
Amen.
then we will come up with
Furf go.
a nickname and take some of y'all nicknames for Johnny Furphy. But yeah, Jackson. Kevin McCullough averages pretty much 20 points a game. Let's say 18.
Yep.
Hunter Dickinson is averaging about the same. Let's say 20 for Dickinson, though. So that's 20 and 18. All right. KJ, he averages 12 points a game. All right. And now Johnny Furphy, you're telling me, is probably going to average about 12 to 15. We'll give him 12 at the least. Right.
62.
And then you got DeJuan Harris, probably at the least 5 5 points per game, right?
Yep.
Like Kansas starting lineup now is at around at
70
least 67 points per game. 65 to 70 probably points per game.
on
Just
average. On average,
on average.
right?
It's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Do you need the bench to score at all? Like that's where we're getting into. Like you watch yesterday's game. The bench doesn't score in the first half. It has 2 points till about 4 minutes left, and Parker, puts in his work. But Kansas didn't need the 7 bench points to win. You watch the game, the bench guys play. They seem to kind of contribute a little bit, but all in all, it's the starters running everything. I understand it's a problem, lack of depth. These guys are going to get gassed. I'm a little worried that we play K-State tomorrow as opposed to Tuesday because that's one less day of rest, which sucks for a team who basically plays 5 guys the whole time.
Yes.
But dude, like if it's 40 minutes to win a basketball game, I still am taking Kansas over everybody just on the fact that yeah, oh, so what if their starting lineup only scores all their points? They're scoring the starting lineup scoring 80 a game. Nobody else is doing that. No wonder we play the starters the whole game. Like, wouldn't you if your starting lineup's put up 80 a game? Like, yeah, run them out there.
Kansas still needs something though from El Marco and Timberlake. Like yesterday, like this is how El Marco and Timberlake's days went. El Marco, I think, actually kind of played okay in the first half whenever he was in there, but in the second half, like he made that nice little floater shot, and I think he had a nice pass. But then after that, he had like 2 back-to-back turnovers, lost his man on defense, and I don't know if you remember Self calling timeout and like literally slapping his chair, like pointing at Furphy, like get back out there, like let's go. Like he was pissed at El Marco yesterday, and then like Timberlake, dude, like I just at this point I am starting to feel bad for the kid because in Allen Fieldhouse, whenever he checks in, like everybody kind of like goes like, it's like there's definitely like there's a different
Murmur.
energy in Allen
Mm-hmm.
Fieldhouse. There's like a murmur. And like imagine being the person checking in and that happens. Like you see him check in. I think it was Jamari was actually out on the court with them. The first time or no, I think it was Kev. Like Kev, has to
Yeah,
like
yeah.
pat him on the
Yep.
back and
It
be
was
like,
Kev during a
let's
free throw.
go.
Yep.
And like, you know, it's kind of bad that that has to
Dude,
happen. And
it
then you don't make your shot. And his body language coming back to the bench, like yesterday, like I'm not kidding. It looked like Timberlake was about to just start bawling his eyes out whenever he got back to the bench. And he puts his towel like over his head right there. He's shaking his head. Jamari's patting him on the back. Like it's sad to see. Like it really is. It is.
Dr. Bez, the body language doctor, is checking in for work right now. Here's how you know it's over. A, McCullough giving him that little tap, like, hey, let's go. That tells me everybody on the team knows. Everybody's aware of what we talk about with
That
Nick
you
Timberlake.
have no confidence,
Yep.
basically.
Every single guy is trying to boost him up. Hey, let's get it. Hey, today's the day. Hey, we're going. Hey, you're hitting the next one. Hey, keep shooting. Keep shooting. I guarantee you that entire team only keep shooting, Nick. Keep shooting, Nick. You keep shooting, Nick. And Bill yanks him out for the second time. First time he came out, it was fine. Second time he came out, it was after a missed shot, and then he threw the ball out of bounds. And Nick seemed to make a motion like someone didn't run the offense right, and Bill wasn't having it. Nick, I know you're new here. Bill Self probably knows what he's talking about. I have no doubt that maybe your Towson coach, you maybe saw things differently than him, and it probably worked out for you. Not in the Big 12, not with Bill Self. And he's walking to the end of the bench. He doesn't even look back. Bill's still yelling at him. He's not even looking. He's giving the guys a high five, but he's not high fiving them. He's just like tapping them with the back of his hand. And then you're like you said, towel, head, face, and hands. It's wraps, man. I really don't think he should play much the rest of the year.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if El Marco and Timberlake combined will average like even 15 minutes a game like the rest of the season. It's probably not going to happen. But I still have God, I still have a ton of faith in Elmarko Jackson.
I do too. That was
I
a
put
bad.
on
Yesterday was a bad matchup for him. That's not a game he should be playing a ton of minutes in anyway.
I forget who said this, but it was a great point. Like Elmarko Jackson is a freshman. Like, yes, he's a
Mhm.
5-star freshman. Look out on the college basketball landscape right now and tell me who was a 5-star freshman last year who is playing really well. Right now, it's
Doesn't
literally
go to Kentucky.
Dillingham and Reed Shepherd, and Reed
Yeah,
Shepherd wasn't a 5-star, and Stephon Castle. Like, I can't think of another 5-star freshman who's legitimately having an impact on college basketball. Like, uh,
it's tough.
Omaha Bailu at Iowa State. Like, it's not doing much. Like, Jacoby Walters, actually, for Baylor, he's been
Oh
really,
yeah, he's a
but
beast.
like,
It's
it
hard.
is what it is. He's a freshman and he's a 6'2" combo guard playing in the Big 12. Like, yeah, things are gonna be hard to figure out. Things are gonna be a little hard. I still have all the faith in Marco Jackson. I think he's gonna be great for us next year. But yeah, this year, as much as Kansas needs something from the bench from those two, I really don't think they're gonna get it. Like
I think
they're right.
Elmarko can still contribute. I still think there's a path for him. I mean, he played great against Oklahoma State. That was just the last game, right? Houston's just he is not ready for potentially best defense in a decade. Hound you, gonna be in your grill. He's not ready for
Jackson, let me ask you this. Do you have the confidence that Marco Jackson could come in and be a difference maker off the bench at some point this season? Like, I don't think that's a thing. I
that.
think
Oh,
for the rest of the season, like he's going to be coming off the bench still, but I think he's going to be pretty limited in his
yeah,
production.
I don't see it. That's what I'm. It would have to depend on the matchup. The only time I could see that is like Big 12 tournament. We're matched up against like UCF again. We're struggling. Marco comes in and gets a quick 8. That's kind of where I could see that happening. But like in March against any team with a top 30 defense, I don't see where he's just not like 4 years of basketball experience. He's playing against the premium defenses in America, and he's just not ready for that yet. And if he was 6'5", 6'6", maybe he would be, because he's fine, but he's just it's tough because I mean the Big 12 has some really big guards that can really guard. I mean, I just a little aside, like I'd said with Furphy coming in the starting lineup, another thing it was going to do was allow Kevin McCullough to guard the best team's guard, and McCullough was matched up with Shed basically the entire first half. And I was really glad Bill did that because he saw what
Shed
I
really
saw.
did nothing yesterday, folks.
He
And
really didn't. It was all Crier.
Kelvin pretty much said that's why they lost. Like he said, we're not very good when Shed's not very good, and Kansas took him out of the game pretty much.
Kevin
So
completely eliminated him, which, yeah. Anyway, going back to the bench. At least we have Parker Brown, right? We know what we're getting with him, and he's been serviceable, and that's what we need him to be. We need him to be serviceable. He can shoot. Like he took that in rhythm. That wasn't
he
a
wanted to take one before that. I don't know if you remember
yeah.
that. He was looking to take
I think
one
he wanted
before
to
that.
take like 2 before that. He could have put a couple pump fakes out there. That's not the first 3 he's hit this year either. He hit one. I don't remember who it was against, but he's hit one before. It might have been OU actually.
I think
Yeah, I
it
think it was
was for
OU.
you.
Yeah, but hey man, shoot that thing. I'm cool with it.
Yeah. Parker's just been Mr. Consistent. And
Yeah,
really, like the drop off between him and Dickinson, like in terms of like the game, like it's not that drastic just because of one reason. It's because Parker is so good at defending the pick and roll. Like he is Kansas's
right.
best pick and roll defending big. I mean, it's between him and Hunter, so it's
Tough race.
yeah. But like yesterday, Kansas played really well in the pick and roll, and they did a really good job in what Self wants to do. Like they've played some drop coverage this year, but yesterday those bigs were getting out there and hedging those guards and then getting back and tagging the big really well. And Parker is the best at it. Like he is really, really good at it. And
Yep.
I think that's why Kansas is so good whenever he's in the game, just because defensively. But yeah,
Yeah, I
kind of
mean,
tough about the Houston game. Just kind of wanted to wrap up 78-65. Kansas wins this one. Hunter Dickinson, another great game, 20 and 8. He also had 4 assists. DeJuan Harris coming through with 7 points. He only had 2 assists in this one, but it was KJ Adams who was doing the dishing with 10 points and 7 assists last
Wow.
night. And then you had Furphy and McCullough, 17 points apiece. McCullough 7 of 8 from the field, and Furphy 6 of 7 from the field. That's elite.
So
And
dumb.
that's KU's wings right now, y'all, which is
Man, that's so awesome.
crazy, man.
That's so awesome.
Parker with 5 off the bench. El Marco had 2. Just a great game, a great team win for Kansas. Like that's as good as it gets, Jackson. It really is. That win was as good as it gets.
We
Bill
honestly
Self,
should have won by 20.
yeah. Bill Self now 12-1, sorry, at home versus AP top 10 teams or top 5 teams, that is. God, I messed that one up. Bill Self 12-1 at home versus AP top 5 teams. There we go. And now 2 at home, 2-0 at home as an underdog. Yeah, just a great team win. And now, Jackson, my question is to you. Houston, Kansas, they're at top of the Big 12. Is Kansas now the front runner in the Big 12? It's kind of crazy that we're back to this because literally our last episode, I said that Kansas was toast in the Big 12. Had to go 9-2 in the last however many games. Like I really thought it was over, Jackson. Like if you looked at the conference 4-3, looking at our schedule, you're just thinking like, yeah, there's like no hope. But now Kansas is right back in first place. It's just that kind of league, Jackson. But is Kansas the front runner now?
Yeah, we're the front runner until we don't win 17 out of the last 20. How about that? Be the front runner until you take us down. Houston is still technically the front runner, and we're tied right now, and we still have to go to their place. So theoretically, you would say they're ahead. You just give them that game. Say we both win out, and then we get there, they beat us at their place. So theoretically, Houston is still the favorite. But I mean, I don't think anything's changed for Kansas. I mean, it was 9-2, now it's 8-2, now it's 7-2. And you're heading into Manhattan, which I said last, even if you beat Houston and then you go out and lose in Manhattan, I still think you're toast because you essentially have to win out the rest of your road games. And I think we can confidently say that's probably not going to happen, considering you still have to go to Tech and Baylor and Norman and Houston.
Hey,
It's
Cincinnati,
probably not going to keep that.
Cincinnati beat Tech at Tech, so
Yeah, that does make me feel better. Tech is at least shown they can be beatable, and OU lost to UCF yesterday, so they're beatable.
also,
that's what I'm saying.
Pretty sure that was also at home. OU is at home for that one too, I think. I'm not sure.
I have no idea where that game was, but you got to win in Norman. I still think that's the plan. You can win in Tech, and then if you win on Monday, you can lose to Baylor and Houston and probably still win the conference. That's the position you put yourself in now. But the number one thing, if Kansas wins tomorrow, I will say they're the front runner for the Big 12. But it's tough to say that just yet because Houston, I don't know if they're not gonna struggle like that ever again the rest of the season.
Houston's schedule is way
caked.
Way easier than Kansas's. Like Kansas, like we mentioned, Kansas has Kansas State twice, and besides that, every single team that Kansas plays is in the top 30 of KenPom. You have Baylor on the road, Baylor at home, Tech on the road, Oklahoma on the road, Texas at home, BYU at home, Baylor on the road, and Houston. Kansas State are the only games that Kansas isn't playing a top 30 KenPom team the rest of the season, as opposed to Houston, who has Oklahoma State, Cincinnati, Texas, Iowa State, Baylor, Cincinnati, Oklahoma, UCF, and then us. It's just, I really think that the Big 12 conference is going to come down to a road game at Houston for Kansas. Like
I hope it does. That would be so awesome.
Come down to that.
That would be so awesome. Even if it's for a share. I think I used to not like clinching a share and sharing it with somebody because I thought it was stupid, but what are 14 teams now in the league? Like that's probably going to happen more often than not when you have that many teams. So I hope it's tied. Like, I mean, that's impossible, but dude, it's just, even if Kansas does lose tomorrow, which would be devastating for a multitude of reasons.
It's not going to happen.
There is still, I mean, I don't think Houston's clearly shown to be vulnerable. Baylor almost lost at home to Iowa State. We just talked about OU and Tech. Like these, kind of demons that Kansas has coming up doesn't seem as scary as they did literally yesterday.
No, you're right. You're right. Yeah, right now, Houston is minus 120 on BetMGM to win the Big 12. Kansas right behind at plus 275. And then what was Iowa State again, Jackson? They were
700, 750. That's the third team too. It's a massive get.
Iowa State plus 725. And then from there, you got Baylor plus 1,000, Tech plus 1,200, TCU plus 2,500.
Baylor might have some value there.
So, yeah, Big 12, man.
That will change 12 more times before the Big 12 tournament starts.
Yes, it will. Yeah. This is what I also thought was very interesting from yesterday. Just probably one of my biggest takeaways from watching the game, post-game press conference. It's this point by Kelvin Sampson. Let me try to find the exact quote here, but basically, Kelvin Sampson said, I don't know if there's any great teams in college basketball this year. It was all part of this like really long run.
Right. Yeah.
He said that KU's good, Houston is good, but this year, like nobody's really great. And this whole time he was kind of talking about like the Baylor Natty team, right? Like how that team, like that was a great team.
It was.
Like the Kansas team 1920, like that was a great team. Like really, if you think about last year, like there weren't any great teams. And I think this year is very similar. Like they're really UConn and Purdue are the best two teams with 2 losses, but I still think both of those teams are very beatable. Like this is just the new era of college basketball we're in right now. Like anybody can beat anybody. There's really not great teams in college hoops. Like March Madness this year is about to be nuts. Like it's about to be
You're right. It's the state of the sport right now. And there's a Twitter kind of debate going on about it, but like men's basketball doesn't have a Caitlin Clark or even an Angel Reese or even a Haley Van Lith. There's not that, Michael Mayer, mullet guy from Baylor, or Davion Mitchell smiles the whole time. There's not a ton of like Zach Edey is Canadian. Nobody cares. And Dickinson pisses everybody off all the time. So like he's not like there's no likable like superstars. Like there's no Kemba Walker in college basketball or De'Aaron Fox or Lonzo Ball. Or I mean, we could go on and on.
I'm literally trying to think of who like my favorite player in college basketball is. That's not a Kansas player, and there's
not a single like that. I mean, Tristan Newton and the Fog is kind of the only. That's that was really cool. But
that was the only player in my head was Newton.
Like, dude, when Buddy Hield put up 46 in the Fog and I was there, I have admired Buddy Hield ever since that day. There's no college basketball stars that give you that same type of
Dalton Connect. I'll give you that one. He's been a star.
Dalton Connect doesn't move me. He's not a media personality superstar that lights up a room like we've seen in the past however many years. Like I keep seeing videos pop up on my Twitter of like old Big East tournament games. And I'm like, these teams are loaded. And there's just not that kind of like Austin Rivers. Oh, dude, can we get another Austin Rivers in college basketball? There's just not like, you're right. You're absolutely right. It's a different game right now. And Kelvin is completely correct. I couldn't agree more with him. Everybody's beatable, which is good. That's what you want. But we watch sports because we love dynasties. People are hating on the Chiefs because they're a dynasty. But it's the most tuned in thing. Everybody watched those Patriots Super Bowls. Like it's people want to watch dynasties. And right now, I think college basketball is probably a little nervous that there's no like dominant, like, man, Kentucky's 24-0 this year. There's nothing like that.
Yeah. Really Purdue and UConn have been the only like truly like quote unquote dominant teams. And like, Purdue's lost Northwestern twice.
Purdue currently up 2.5 on Wisconsin. And that's a top 6 matchup. So that's I'll be one to watch. But again, like Purdue's only scored 32 points in 1/2 and they're supposed to be the best, most stoppable offense in the entire country. And they barely broke 30.5. Like it's just
good luck filling out your March Madness bracket. this year.
Might as well just have your dog do it.
Might as well
Just
just
have
pick
like
random teams, honestly.
this is what my family does. You put logos and then you put treats by both the logos, and then whichever one the dog goes to first, that's what you pick. Trust.
Not a bad strat.
Yep.
Well, all right, y'all. We're gonna be back in a sec at the under 4 timeout. We're just gonna give you a couple of quick hitters on K-State. Pretty big game, rivalry game for Kansas on Monday against the Wildcats. So we'll give you a little info on that. We'll see you at the under 4.
As you guys know by now, we've partnered with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 each and every week of the college basketball season. We have a special offer that will be available starting on Tuesday, January 9th, and running through Monday, February 12th, the morning after Super Bowl 58. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, in honor of the big game, you can use the bonus code FIELD158 and you'll get $158 in free bets on your first wager with BetMGM, regardless of whether or not you win that first bet. Here's how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app. Sign up using the bonus code FIELD158. Deposit at least $5 and place your first wager on any game. You'll receive $158 in bonus bets regardless of the outcome of your bet. Just make sure that you use that bonus code FIELD158 when you sign up. And remember, BetMGM is now available under one wallet in select states. As a New Jersey resident, this is super convenient when I have to go cover games in New York or Philly, which happens quite a bit. When you cross state borders, you just log into your existing account and fire away. You don't have to create separate accounts in each state. It's easy, it's simple, it's clean. And most importantly, we have some fun stuff coming up for the heart of the college basketball season. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odd boosts, and my favorite, a nice juicy parlay boost. So download the BetMGM app and sign up today. Field 158.
Welcome back, everybody, to The Hum, a Kansas Hoops podcast via the Field of 68. We are now here to talk a little K-State, and let's be honest, like K-State desperately needs a win here in this game, and the Jayhawks really need this one too to keep a strong hold on the Big 12 conference. Coming into this game, man, it's not looking pretty for K-State. They've lost to Iowa State on the road, Houston on the road. I mean, those are probably games you're going to lose, but then they lost to Oklahoma at home by 20, got absolutely destroyed by Oklahoma, and just lost at Oklahoma State. Let's be honest, this Kansas State team is not as talented as the team they had last year, not even close. Jerome Tang, I love Jerome Tang. He's a great coach, but I just really don't think they have the group this year. What are they in KenPom? 75 in KenPom.
Not their year. Everything
that's good, like 96.9 defensive efficiency, but their offense is terrible. Terrible.
Like ever since the Naquan Tomlin thing, it just hasn't been their year. But unluckily for Kansas, it doesn't matter. Not even in the slightest, because the only reason you commit to play basketball at Kansas State is for this game tomorrow to beat Kansas. It's why you go to K-State. It's why the students go there to beat Kansas in basketball. It's all they want. It's all they care about. I bet some Chiefs fans won't even care about the Super Bowl on Sunday if K-State wins tomorrow. That's how much this game means to them. So with that being said, everybody prepare yourselves for the 6 of 7 from 3 in the first half. And I don't want to see anybody on Twitter bitching about it. Well, they haven't made a shot in 4 weeks. No, all of a sudden, guys, it is like literally the most important game of their life. They're going to hit shots. They got 2 guards, Cam Carter, Tyler Perry. They're going to shoot, I think, 35 combined shots. And I'm not kidding. I'm dead. Like, they might. And then they've got Arthur Kaluma from Creighton. And then I think KJ will just drown him out, like you told me earlier. But, yeah, it's really not about, like, personnel, matchups. It's just you got to weather the sandstorm. You know what I mean? They're going to play that dumb song. They're going to be chanting FKU all night. They're going to be doing their seizure dance. And, yeah, Kansas just got to be ready. You just got to be locked in. Don't let the environment get you. Understand that this is their game. And if you're going in the first into halftime with a lead, that's the biggest thing. Just get up early and stay up. And I mean, they're not going to be able to stop us offensively. I think Kansas should score 85 points tomorrow. Truly.
The last time I'll say this about the K-State game. That environment is actually legit. Like
It
I
is.
I went during the Natty year. I don't know if you remember how absolutely insane that game was. Kansas coming all the way back.
Ochai hit a
Side
little
making a little floater.
down 16.5. Nigel Pack was hitting 40 footers. Oh,
I was courtside that game, Jackson. It was awesome. But
yeah.
that crowd is legit. Like that crowd gets up for that game. So yeah, Kansas is going to have their hands full with the crowd. They're going to have to respond. I think Kansas will. I don't know has it opened yet, Jackson?
No opening line yet. No
But
opening line.
Impalm has it at 73-68, Kansas winning. I think this goes one of two ways. I think it's either really close and Kansas squeaks out with the win, or I think Kansas wins this game by like 25 points. I might be a big alternate spread guy here.
Look into that. I because the weeknight games are interesting because they're either the most fired up or just straight blowouts. You know, because with the students got class tomorrow, if it's a 25-point game with 18 minutes left, that's getting emptied out. But it's at night, so you know people have had some bevies. Student section's getting fired up. If it's close, it's like you said. It's you just gotta. The crowd is the biggest factor, and that's why I don't think Marco should play a whole lot. You know, and I don't love the idea of Timberlake getting in this game. But if there's ever a game for one of them to show that they can play in a road environment, do it tomorrow, please. Please do it tomorrow because Kevin's going to be tired. Anio's probably going to be sore because he's still that knee's kind of nagging still. Dewan's going to be gassed. KJ's going to be gassed. Like Furphy will be beyond gassed. I'm worried just the fact that we played yesterday and play tomorrow. Not that Kansas State has any chance of actually beating us in the basketball court, but there's fatigue. There's the crowd. There's all sorts of the octagon of doom, apparently, as they call it. I like to call it the octagon of room because nobody's there when Kansas isn't there. That's kind of my thing. But yeah, it should be a W, and it shouldn't be close. But if it is, I will be very curious to see who's played what minutes and what kind of legs are looking like what in terms of conditioning from the guys.
Yep. You got KU Kansas State tomorrow, Monday at 8 p.m. Central Time. And then after Kansas State, we have College Game Day coming to town for Baylor. Ooh. And we'll be back here on the Hum probably on Wednesday or Thursday before that Baylor game. We might do a little something with Kansas State. We'll kind of see there, but I'm going to try to get a College Game Day crew member on here to talk with us for the Baylor game. So we'll see how that goes. But thank you, everybody, for joining us on episode 21 of the Hum. Great win, Jackson. I mean, I'm ecstatic.
So fun.
Goes down. Kansas is back. We are so back.
Never been backer.
There we are, folks. Thanks, everybody, for joining.